And in a major NDTV national security news break today, the Modi government has just unveiled India's biggest defense upgrade capability plan since independence, according to some experts. The Defense Ministry has unveiled a 15-year, multi-billion-dollar plan to transform India's armed forces with futuristic weaponry. The roadmap, a copy of which NDTV has seen, includes things like nuclear-powered warships, next-generation battle tanks, hypersonic long-range missiles, stealth bomber drones, AI-powered warfare and weapons, and space-based warfare technology. Now, according to this path-breaking short-term capability vision document that seeks to beef up the armed forces with future-ready weapons for the first time, the Indian Army, for instance, will induct nearly 1,800 future battle tanks to replace its current fleet, 400 light tanks for mountain warfare, 50,000 tank-mounted anti-tank guided missiles, and over 700 robotic counter-IED systems. The Indian Navy, on the other hand, is set to get a next-generation aircraft carrier, 10 next-generation frigates, 7 advanced corvettes, and 4 landing platform docks or amphibious ships. There will be nuclear propulsion for some of these warships. There could be electronic launch systems for these next-generation aircraft carriers. The Air Force will acquire, according to this vision document, 75 high-altitude pseudo-satellites, 150 stealth unmanned combat aerial vehicles, hundreds of precision-guided munitions, and over 100 remotely piloted unmanned aircraft. This is a blueprint for a future-ready force that comes just a few months after Operation Sindoor. The intention is that over the next decade and a half, the Indian military has to be upgraded to an extent that hasn't been seen since independence. And I want to show you what some of those capabilities really are. And joining me here on India Matters is Vishnu, who knows more, I can tell you, about weapons and weapon systems than anyone else that I know. Vishnu, a 15-year roadmap that includes things like nuclear-powered naval warships, a new generation aircraft carrier, hypersonic weapons. Your initial assessment of this. We've spoken about these things before. The government has now put them on paper.
They need to cough up the money.
Yeah.
Hundreds of billions of dollars within a limited period of time. 15 years is nothing as far as defense preparedness.
Blink of an eye.
Who's going to be making this? A lot of these have not even entered the prototype stage. Atmanirbharta is the focus of this government. We don't want to get into too many imports, only when it's required. Is industry in India mature enough to actually act with the DRDO setup, the Defense Research and Development Organization, in actually making all of this a reality? That said, everything in this list makes sense. Nuclear-powered naval warships, Shiv, why? Because we've already got nuclear-powered reactors. Therefore, adopting that for aircraft carriers is not a big deal. We have nuclear-powered submarines. Adopting those reactors for aircraft carriers, not a big deal.
Just talk for a moment about what a nuclear-powered naval warship does to a warship's capability, Vishnu. How is it different from a normal warship?
It never runs out of its ability to operate unless there's a breakdown or unless food on board ends.
Yeah, incredible. So nearly limitless endurance.
Limitless range and endurance, bound entirely by its mechanical ability to carry on with that endurance. The reactor, modern ones, are often not refueled in the life of that reactor. This is what countries like the United States operate. France operates as well. And that is really the bedrock of what an advanced aircraft carrier
is. And a new generation aircraft carrier. We already have Indian-built, INS Vikrant. This is a new generation aircraft carrier. I'm assuming they mean nuclear-powered here as well. Possibly, we don't know.
They've said one more aircraft carrier. Let's face it, Vikramaditya is not, state-of-the-art by any means. Vikramaditya is the old Russian aircraft carrier, formerly Gorshkov. That has to be decommissioned sooner than later. So they're essentially looking at a replacement for that. If you have, a nuclear reactor inside, it seems to indicate that you'd go for a larger warship. That means many more fighter jets on board. So a genuine carrier potentially going towards a super carrier where you have about 80-odd aircraft on board is what I would guess.
Okay, so unmanned combat aerial vehicles is, again, not something that people haven't heard of before. India has its own program as well. But stealth UCAVs, or unmanned combat aerial vehicles, which are basically pilotless drones that can drop bombs after penetrating airspace. Tell us about this, Vishnu. We've got a program called the Ghatak, which is very nascent. It's a technology demonstrator, but the intention is to build a capability where these unmanned stealth aircraft can fly into enemy airspace and drop bombs.
Or even if they don't fly into enemy airspace, even if they are operating from within, let's say, Chinese territory, but are undetected, and have, given the size of the aircraft themselves and stealth as they are, the ability to launch long-range precision weapons actually gives countries like China presently the ability to really hit India hard. India needs to counter that. Stealth technology has to mature in India. We keep talking about Indian stealth technology only in terms of AMCA, the Advanced Medium Combat Aircraft. That's a fighter aircraft. The world is now moving beyond manned platforms to unmanned platforms. That's going to be a reality in the next 15, 20 years. Therefore, we need to come of age with that technology as well.
Is, and Vishnu is right, because this is a capability document that talks about putting such weapons into service in the next 15 years, and 15 years is nothing when it comes to weapons development. So this is hugely ambitious, but at least it has been articulated. Now let's come to hypersonic missiles, Vishnu. Again, something we've already seen in recent battles. You know, we've seen Iran fire some into Israel. You were in Israel, when some of this was happening. Tell us about India's program. Do we already have a hypersonic missile program?
We've got.
How far along are we?
There are two types of hypersonic weapons. There's something called a boost glide weapon, where you use the booster of, let's say, an intercontinental ballistic missile or of a ballistic missile to take a weapon to a particular speed. It then releases. It then travels at hypersonic velocities, which are above Mach 5. Actually, more than that.
Cannot be intercepted.
It needs to. It operates in a particular trajectory. That makes it very difficult to intercept. Then there are those hypersonic weapons which use what's called a scramjet. And this document actually makes mention of a scramjet, which is an air-breathing engine. We've tested both, but it's not even a prototype weapon. We're now looking at, for example, scramjets we've tested for 1,000 seconds, which is really great. We need to weaponize that.
Okay, so 15 years once again, which is very interesting. At least, we've got our eye on the prize.
Where's the money coming from?
The Defense Ministry. Well, look, you've had the Prime Minister say, when it comes to national security, especially in the aftermath of Operation Sindoor, there's never going to be any shortage of money for national security. Let's assume that is a guiding principle as far as these weapons
we would need to have, Shiv, 7-8% of our GDP if we're going to achieve this in 15 years.
Right now, it's what, 2.5%?
Yeah, it's at the level of where we were in 1962.
Okay, so how much is a directed energy laser weapon going to cost, Vishnu? This I know for a fact is in the works. Some of those things have been, in a rudimentary fashion, been tested. These are like Star Wars weapons, laser weapons.
No, so this is actually fairly developed. It's called Kali. It's a program. It's being done by the DRDO. The fact is that you cannot be using missiles to take out incoming drones all the time. You need to have a directed energy weapon. Another way of saying directed energy weapon is laser. So it is very much Star Wars or Star Trek, if you like. These are beginning to get deployed. It becomes absolutely essential because each surface-to-air missile costs upwards of, let's say, $1 million. A single shot of a laser costs a few cents. So it's viable.
Okay, it's viable, definitely.
And it needs to go on warships.
Okay, so I want to cycle through the next few and go right to the end. So we've talked about the laser weapons, pseudo-super satellites, which are high altitude.
That's critical. That's
critical?
There is a company in India called New Space. Samir Joshi runs that.
Who was at the NDTV summit.
He has already prototyped a HAPS, or a high altitude pseudo satellite. What is this aircraft? It flies really slowly.
I love how it looks as well.
It's powered by solar technology. It flies up to 70,000 feet, plus more than that perhaps, just on the edge of where the atmosphere ends and edge of space. And because it's persistent, it essentially floats in one area, very slowly goes around,
and acts like a satellite.
It has sensors, and it's up there for months on end, hypothetically. Even though it's relatively, slow technology, it's not a fighter plane or anything like that, it is still state of the art. If you have something on that at 75,000 feet, looking over, let us say, imagine the benefit to our defense plan.
Operation Sindoor has confirmed how crucial and vital having such, persistent satellite capabilities really are. So we've talked about the pseudo-satellites. Future battle tanks we already know about. Those are in the works. 400 light mountain tanks, very important. You're going to see that on Vishnu's show at 10 p.m., where the both of us became the first journalists who actually drove India's new mountain tank. Smart swarming drones you've heard about. I'll end, Vishnu, we've got just a few seconds left. High-energy electromagnetic weapons. We've seen Japan and a couple of other countries test some of these. What are these? How difficult is this going to be?
An electromagnetic pulse weapon would actually take out the digital infrastructure of your enemy. It would take out your power grids. It would take out a whole lot of interconnected systems. And therefore, an electromagnetic pulse weapon, that's what I read this to be, would be a game changer. China has invested very heavily on it. How exactly this works, extremely closely guarded. Secrets.
It's going to be incredible. And, you're right. There are questions to ask. Where's the money going to come from? Is 15 years really enough? But I'm very excited about this, and I hope it can be a reality. You know, why not aim for the stars when it comes to something as important as national security? Vishnu, thanks so much for joining me.